Hello and welcome to Stylish Chats with Creatives. Today on the podcast, I'm chatting to Marcus Brooks. He's from Manchester and he's a freelance videographer and editor. And we actually met on the Freelancer Tea Room. I feel like this is a common theme at the moment on the podcast. I'm chatting to lots of people who are on there. Welcome to the show.
Thanks. Yeah, cheers for having me. This is cool. Looking forward to it.
Yay! Tell me how you got into filmmaking. Where does your journey start? Is it from when you're tiny, when you're a bit older?
Yeah, so what it was, when I was about, I don't know, what age would I have been? From year 6 going into year 7, what is that, like 12, 30?
Yeah,
oh, no,
12,
I think is it age like 11 and 12? Around that time, it was around 2006, and my mum bought me a phone because I needed to have that level of independence. I'm going home on my own and all that kind of thing. And it was a Sony Ericsson. It was one of the Walkman ones, and it had a video editor on it. Now you could only put 5 clips, and a clip could be a picture, it could be a video clip, it could be text, and you could put up to 5 of these together. You could cut them together and put them in like an order. And then put some like background music on it if you want. And this is on like a little flip phone. It's unbelievable. And I just thought it was really cool. And unfortunately, I don't have any of the, actually, no, I'm going to say fortunately, I don't have any of the videos on there. I mean, I remember I've got vague memories. This is the beginning of my career. I've never actually thought about it until just now. But I just thought it was really cool that you could film something and stick it together and remix it and move it around and do. So yeah, that's it. And when was that? I mean, I'm talking 20 years ago, nearly. So that's a bit crazy, isn't it? But yeah, I guess that's where it started. And then from that, YouTube was in its infancy at that time. In fact, I was actually using Google Video, and occasionally I would go on Google Video. No one knows what that is, showing my age. And I would click on a video and it would redirect to YouTube because it was Google were currently buying YouTube. And I was, what's this YouTube thing? I don't know what this is, but eventually you get used to it. And I realized, okay, no, this is the way it's going. So I got a channel and started making these there was a piece of software called Pivot Stick Figure. And yeah, that I don't know how I got to know that, but I was making these little kind of animated stick figure cartoons of like fight scenes, kind of anime inspired, that kind of energy balls flying around the place, So yeah, that's kind of where it started. You're doing video editing using Windows Movie Maker, and then eventually Sony Vegas, and then eventually Premiere Pro, and eventually actually getting paid to do it. So yeah, that's kind of. Long story short, that's me. That's what I do.
That's so fun that you started YouTube at such a young age as well. Me and my husband, we watch a lot of YouTube, and Nathan especially has watched a YouTuber. Oh my God, what's his name now? And he's just like, he eats crazy stuff. And he hasn't changed his format or anything for like 15 years.
Seriously,
and he's still getting and he's still getting millions of views and stuff. And Nathan's like, this is the pinnacle. He's not advertising anything. He's not, because YouTube has a lot of adverts and stuff in it now, doesn't it?
Oh, well, it's a business and it's a career now, but it's lost like back at its roots. I think that's what you're talking about. I remember watching Colin Furze, he's a big YouTuber now. I remember watching him back in 2006, and he'd get like a caravan, like that you would tow, and he would turn it into like a fast food truck, but like on the road. No, people love Colin Furze. Everyone, millions of people watch him, but not a lot of people know about his origins. And it was just him and his mates with the camcorder doing daft stuff, serving a plate of beans and an egg, out the back of a caravan to people who were driving past in their cars and just putting it through the windscreen. Like, honestly, it's crazy. But that's what I think YouTube should be. But it's become more of a career. There's adverts and all that. I'm not a YouTuber. I dabbled in it, and it was just a way for me to kind of edit and publish stuff. Yeah, a handful of videos got like 1 million+ views there, but nothing that I would like to link to on this podcast because I feel like I've kind of grown up away from that. So yeah, I freelance, I make videos. It can be for anything. A lot of events and conferences, weddings. Currently working on a charity cycling film, which is really cool. and I'm happy to talk about that later. And me and a friend of mine also co-directed and co-produced a feature-length documentary, which was really nice a couple of years ago. Went to a few film festivals and things. So yeah, just kind of, I'm lucky that I've found a way to do it as a full-time freelance thing. Where it's going to go, I don't know, but at the moment, I am enjoying it. It's good. I'm making it work. So
yeah. I feel like, welcome to the freelance world. I feel like we all just are making it work, and then all of a sudden you've been doing it for over a decade and you're like, what the hell?
yeah.
So did you go to university as well?
I did, yeah. So to be honest, the value of university, it was a really good course. I went to the University of Salford, and at the time they did a course called Sound and Video Technology, which is kind of like broadcast engineering. That's how I see it. Very technical. OBs getting in a van and having like a gallery in the sense of like loads of screens and vision mixers and buttons and switches, and you've got like a live news program or maybe some kind of sporting event. It was all around how that works and how the technology works. And I really chose that course because I wanted to supplement the creative side of filmmaking. I don't know what it is. I've always really fancied myself as a filmmaker, but I wanted to have the technical understanding because I knew that, practically speaking, if you want to, you need to be able to be a gaffer and a sound engineer. You need to know how these things work above just writing a nice script and, making a nice video. But obviously, well, not obviously, but I've never really done too much in terms of writing. I actually quite enjoy the technical side of it, the color grading and all the rest of it. So I've really grown away from the early days of what I used to do, playing around with my mates and making little videos around, like, I don't know, in the school playground, and going from animation and then obviously using a camera and, documenting life as it happens and that sort of thing. So, yeah.
What is your favorite? You said that you kind of do a bit of sports videography, a bit of wedding. What's your favorite thing to kind of hone in on?
So I think the most wholesome thing, well, there's two things. So we've just been through January, and I'll be honest, it was quite a quiet month, but I kept it busy by doing a few things like updating my show reel, but also working on a charity film. So this charity I'll name drop them because they're wonderful at what they do. It's Cyclists Fighting Cancer. And they're a charity that gives brand new bikes to children and young people living with cancer. These bikes could potentially be modified in certain ways to allow the kids to be able to get on them easily or to pedal them better and, things like that. But this is a charity it's a very small charity. They don't have the funds to pay for video production. And I really like what they do. So I kind of help out. Me and a friend, sometimes we go down, we film bike deliveries at people's houses and events that they do. And it's really wholesome stuff because I feel like I'm keeping myself busy. I'm refining my craft and getting better at what I do, but I'm also giving back. I can't always afford to donate to these things, but if I can contribute something of some other value, then that's really good. Another thing that I do is sometimes there's a company I work for, and we often work with kids. And they have this particular company has a YouTube channel where they have these little, how old? Kind of like year 6 to year 11 kind of deal, like that kind of age range, like I guess between 11 and 16. And they're like reporters, and they'll go to like some kind of activity center or a theme park or whatever, and I'll film them being reporters and interviewing the public on how they're enjoying it. Is it worth coming? Do they recommend it for their families? It's just really nice stuff, but obviously that stuff is paid. So maybe less, the charity stuff I do for free. And yeah, I don't know, that's the most enjoyable, I think, because it feels like I'm doing more than just a job. I'm actually giving something else, which is really cool.
Yeah. I think I don't think charities always want your money. Obviously the money's great, but sometimes if you've got a specific skill and you've got the time to give, sometimes that's more valuable to them because actually, like, your films, they might be able to then pitch out to donors, and it's kind of a cycle.
Oh yeah, no,
in that
sure.
kind of way.
The most recent example is this charity. They're looking at bringing on a new business kind of charitable partner, a company that can do regular sponsored rides and encourage their, because cycling is good for lots of reasons. It's good for mental health, it's good for fitness. for the kids who are suffering with cancer or living with cancer, it's a way to get there. There's a lot of development stages and milestones in a child's development that the bike can be a vehicle and a tool for. It allows them to be social, get out, get some fresh air, be kids again, you know?
Yeah.
But also for companies, it's a really good scheme. Like it makes you look good as a company if you encourage your colleagues and your team to do fundraising, and especially if it's active. So the film I'm currently working on is going to be used to pitch, you know, the charity to be a charitable partner for companies. So yeah, literally as you say, just like that.
It's so nice. Like, it's so nice that you can use your skills like that. I think it's like, it's really wholesome. And actually, I think you probably get a lot more out of it yourself as well. Because like you say, you're still honing your skills. It's not like you're like, oh, I'm amazing, and like flicking your hair and being like, oh
yeah, no, not at all.
You know,
I think,
it's
like I say, it's been a very quiet month, and freelance, the world of freelance, I do it full time. It's up and down with your schedule. And I did have actually work booked in for January that got cancelled due to budget. And that just happens, and you have to roll with the punches. But to be able to keep yourself busy in between those times and give back is really important. And plus, yeah, like I say, there's a value add to it, which, you know, when I'm filming this kind of stuff and when I'm working on it and when I'm focused on, you know, is my shot in focus? Does it look good? Is the composition good? I briefly forget about financial worries, or there's no work coming in 3 months' time, or I can't afford this lens that I need, or whatever it might be. You kind of forget those things and you focus on what really matters, which is in the moment, the value you're bringing to people that need it. So
yeah, and I think you're so right as well with freelancing. It's a roller coaster, isn't it?
Absolutely. I only started freelancing full time a couple of years ago. Prior to that, I was kind of working. Well, I was working full time at a tech company. That was my first job out of uni. And it was really good because I had my foot in the door before I graduated. I knew some of the people that worked there, and they needed my skills. They needed someone to kind of bring video into the company to do marketing and that kind of thing. And it was a high pressure environment because money was tight, because the company was pre-revenue, and it was, that you had to just figure it out. But you had a lot of creative freedom because it hadn't been done before at this company. I was like establishing video, which was pretty cool, you know, to be given that responsibility. But yeah, after 7 years, I decided, you know, I had that burning itch to go freelance, because you learn a lot of residual skills, you grow really fast, and, you know, just the virtue of like having 30 jobs in a year rather than just one or two. So what I did was I reduced my hours at that company. I started doing part-time work for a year or two, just to kind of give myself time to establish a bit of a client base and get a name for myself without, you know, jeopardizing my bills and, you know, my food, which is quite important. It gave me some regular income, but I had to work because it wasn't enough to survive. It was just enough to kind of keep a baseline. So 2 years. And I think you said earlier, have you been freelancing for about 10 years, did you say?
If not more. Not more. I've kind of lost count.
It's fast approaching for me. It feels like I started this journey yesterday, and I'm learning all the time. And we met on on what was it? The Tea Room is basically like a Discord group, and that's a really good resource, especially when, as I said to you before, as a freelancer, you're in your own head and you kind of get a bit stuck and thinking that, oh, you know, woe is me, like everything's terrible and I don't know what I'm doing, and the whole imposter syndrome comes. But yeah, I think just being able to connect with other people wherever you can, networking or otherwise, virtual or in person, really helps.
I think it's massive. And actually, like, I'm lucky because I work in studios 90% of the time. It's rare that I kind of have a day prop shopping from home. And I think without actually being in, like, when I have quiet months, I try and ram loads of podcast interviews in, or I try and go and meet people for coffee, because otherwise I'm going on myself and I think, oh my God, was I just an arsehole last time I was in studios? Or like, was this the imposter talking, you know, because I wouldn't be doing it for this long if I wasn't all right at my job. And I think that imposter syndrome, it's so hard to shut it up sometimes. And especially if you're quiet. January and February, notorious for being quiet. December, you only work two weeks of the month because everyone buggers off halfway through and then doesn't come back till the 6th of January or whatever. So it's difficult to try and fill that time sometimes not being productive, but doing something creative that you haven't had time to do because you're trying to run your business, do your accounts, find the work, do the work, edit the work, everything else. You know, you're wearing 20 hats. So yeah, it can be a lonely place, but I think the more things like the freelance tea room come up, the more that people connect via things like the podcast, there is a whole community of us out there. And there's lots of network events, but also I know they're not everybody's cup of tea. So it's, you know, not everybody wants to do that kind of thing. Maybe they'd like to meet up in a smaller group, or, you know, just go for a coffee one-on-one or whatever. But you're definitely not alone in feeling that January is quiet. February can be quiet. I mean, I've had years where my August has been quiet and I'm like, what the hell? August is supposed to be busy. What's going on? It's just, there's no tellings. And you're so right as well with budget. Often I find that companies kind of spend their budget and it comes to January, February, March, and then they go, shit, we've got no budget for that until April, until their finances kick up again.
Yeah.
And then they're scrambling around for people because everyone's booked on stuff, you know, that's been in the pipeline for months.
And sometimes as well, you can have it where, well, we've got some budget left over, we want to do something with it, but then you're limited to, like, it might be a tight budget, it depends as to what it is. And what I find is it just depends on your circles, like your client circles. And a lot of the work I do leads to more work through either the same clients or being recommended to friends of that client, you know, or business partners of that client. And you end up in this kind of circle. A lot of my work's in London, even though I'm based in Manchester.
Really?
Yeah. And I'm constantly on trains down there, which is good because everyone always asks, oh yeah, but are you getting, like, you know, your travel and your accommodation? So I mean, obviously I wouldn't do it otherwise, because that's you know, like all of my pay, it's so expensive, all of my pay would just go towards the train company.
Yeah.
Which it shouldn't, because I'd always arrive late anyway. But I mean, it's not the train driver's fault. It's just, there's just a lot going on in this country in terms of transport. It needs to be better, but we're getting there, hopefully. I say we're getting there. We're not getting the HST. But that's a whole, I'm not going down that road. Although I will go down that road in a car, because that seems to be the only reliable way of getting anywhere these days. And that's another thing. I film a lot of conferences and things like that, which have a sustainability angle to them. And I always feel bad because I have to drive, like I'm not using public transport. But it's just, when you're freelancing, there's enough you've got to juggle as it is. You need to be able to rely on getting to the work. Otherwise, you'll not be able to do it and not get paid. So yeah, there's so much to juggle with it. But it's funny, you know, the amount of times that I hear myself and other people complaining about the woes of freelancing. You know, we still do it. We still try to make it work. And there is an energy to it. Like, for example, but then here's the caveat. So like, people say, oh yeah, but there's a lot of freedom in time and, you know, how you structure your week. So I worked all last week, and then I had a shoot on Saturday. Went up to the Lake District. It was on Coniston Water, beautiful scenery, filming some kids doing like an activity experience day sort of thing. And then, you know, we'll use that as promo for, you know, actually getting families and kids and schools to go up and do this activity thing. So yeah, that was on a Saturday. And you could argue, well, I could just take Monday off then, can't I? But you don't, or at least I don't, because I'm sitting here worrying about, you know, if I'm not at my desk when other people are at their desk, then there might be an opportunity I might miss if I'm not, you know, quick with the emails, you know, people. So you don't just take days off, I find. I don't know, it's weird. Like, unless you've booked a holiday and you're physically away from your office.
Yeah,
you know.
And even then, I've got two phones. So I've got a personal phone and a work phone.
No, I couldn't deal with that.
Well, the reason, I'll tell you the story. I was getting contacted kind of out of hours. So I'd hit a point where I was still on my phone. People contacted me on Instagram, LinkedIn, everything at all hours in the day, weekends, the whole lot. And I wasn't able to shut off properly, to actually rest, to then make sure that I was at my best when I was at work. So, but here's what comes in is the fear of losing out work because you've said, piss off. It's my tea time. It's 6 o'clock. I'm not going to pick it up till 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
So I think it's a difficult balance, and I can't tell you that there's a right and a wrong way of doing it. We go on a big holiday in a few weeks, and I'm going to take my work phone with me, but it will literally be like, I'll check it and I'm going to put an out of office on. People know that I'm away, but it's difficult to kind of know that you're turning away that work, and also you're spending money while you're on holiday. So you're
Yeah.
almost losing out twice.
No, it's
But
true.
if you don't let go of that fear, the whole point of being freelance is that you have a work-life balance that suits you. And I think it's great to work on the weekends, but sometimes you do need to take that day off in the week just to like do life admin. I was talking to someone at work about this today. Like, he said to me, bloody dentist isn't open on a Saturday. I said, well, I've never had a Saturday appointment since I was a kid. Like,
Yeah,
I've always have to take like a admin day, and then I'm like, right, can I get my hair cut on the same day? Can I go here? Can I get a physio appointment? And just, I kind of make use of that, say, Monday off.
for sure.
And then you feel like you've got loads of stuff that might creep into 4 days, but you've made it into one, you know?
I think that's one benefit of freelance, where there's no one to answer to in terms of that. As long as you feel you're on top of your work and your emails and stuff, that's fine. But what I didn't like about working full time was the kind of implied guilt. I mean, I'm not saying that that was unique to where I worked. I'm not doing that. This will happen everywhere. But like having to, I've got a dentist appointment at 9 a.m. Like, is it okay if I come into work like 30 minutes later than usual? And even though it should be fine, and companies say, oh yeah, it's flexible, often it's not. They'll still kind of eye you up or whatever, from what I've heard from people as well, in like, more kind of corporate roles. And I just don't have any of that. Like, if I need to, like, I had an eye test this morning, I made the time for it, and I went, did it, came back. I've still delivered all the edits I needed to do today. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although I know that, whilst we're on this podcast, I am getting WhatsApp notifications, and I've just silenced them. Just before we press record, I was like, I had to just pause and just quickly reply to someone just to let them know that I'm going to be off for like a bit. And that's one thing I don't like. I don't like how WhatsApp is like, that should be for personal, but I'm ending up using it for work. It's creeping in. But then some of my kind of friends and ex-colleagues at previous roles love that WhatsApp is bleeding into work. And
personally, I think it's quicker for reaching clients while I'm on set. If like an art director or a client needs sign off, and you can quickly send them a picture of either your screen or whatever. And like, it's a bit more instant. You can see they've read it.
For sure.
It's a bit more instant. But again, this is why I've got a personal phone, because I just thought I love the people I work with, but I don't want to talk about work at 8 o'clock at night. I don't. My job is not that serious, but I think it's finding that balance, because also like, I remember being in your situation when I first started out, and I was like, oh God, what if I miss a text? What if I miss a call? What if I miss a job? You do eventually relax into it, but it is hard to let go of that. That's what I'm trying to tell you, is like, it's still hard to let go of it.
Still getting there, I feel. There's but it's all part of the learning, and it's all part of the learning and just getting used to it. I'm still getting there, and I think a lot of people are probably still getting used to it, even if they've been doing it for 15, 20 years. It's
very difficult to say no to. I think we all see client texts for like work as hopeful money coming in, and it's very difficult to be like, oh sorry, I'm booked for that day, or oh sorry, I can't do that,
it's the
or
worst.
You've missed it, and you feel guilty, but actually it's, they'll find somebody else, or maybe you're like number 2 on the list, and like, it's fine, it'll come back round. I think that's something that like I've relaxed into as well, is work will always come back round. It will.
It's just, it doesn't always feel it in the moment, but you are right.
No.
It's funny though. So a couple instances where that's happened to me, I don't know what it was, but this one day in September last year, it was a Thursday. There was like 6 things going on. There was someone who wanted me to film an event in London. There was a last minute thing in Portugal because someone had dropped out. I had a friend's wedding that I couldn't go to because I had the first job that I was working. And then there was another thing, and it's just, what is about this one Thursday? But I guess it's just, that's just coincidence. Like, the people that I happen to know, that was how it was going. But then equally, being available can be in your favor. So there was a job that there was a theatre somewhere in the Peaks, probably not too far from where you live. They had a load of dress rehearsals that they wanted to film so that a promo video could be made in order to promote them for when it was opening night and the week thereafter. So this guy was supposed to be doing the filming and the editing, and they rang him up saying, hi, just checking that everything's all good, we'll see you in a couple of hours. And he replied saying, I got my calendar wrong. I'm in Spain at the moment. I can't be there. I can't do it. The luck part of that comes in because he knew me, but
Mm.
he only knew me. You know what? I don't even know how I know him. I've only seen him once. This dude. But anyway, he knew me. Somehow I was on his phone. I guess that's the beauty of networking, isn't it? You never know where it might
Yeah.
end up, right? So he said, because he knew I was based in Manchester. I'm only about an hour and a half from the Peak District. So, like, yeah, can I go? Me and my partner were supposed to be going to play badminton, not badminton, squash. We were meant to be, we try and do things like that for each other on the
Yeah,
weekend.
yeah.
And I was like, yeah, sorry, I'm going to have to. Like, this was at 3 p.m. So just after 3 p.m. when I got the call, the rehearsal started at 5. And it's like, and it takes an hour and a half to get there. I'm like, I need to go right this minute. I need to leave now.
Shit.
So fuck the squash, right? I get my kit, I get my flight case, and I get in the car and go immediately. I get set up and I film it all. And what's really funny is I ended up being a bit cheaper and better quality for the work than the other guy because they'd used the other guy in the previous year. So when they emailed about 2 weeks ago to say, oh, we're looking at organizing 2025, they'd like me to do all of it. So I'll be the guy filming it, I'll be the guy editing it. I don't know if they're using the other person for anything at all because it clearly like that was an error of, didn't look good being on holiday when we had a date booked in. And clearly I had to step up and they seemed to get on with me really well. So that was a good opportunity that I don't know, I feel like I've stolen that work from him now, which I feel kind of bad for, but I kind of need it because the thing is, he was charging for his kit and his time, whereas my day rate is encompassing everything.
Yeah.
So I'm a little
Yeah.
bit cheaper in that sense, but I'm happy with my rate at the moment. And this company happens to be a charity, so they've not got as much money to play with, I guess. But yeah, funny story. Like it's one of those like you make or break moments. I had to make a decision there and then, like right. And if that's an
Yeah.
instance of I guess later in life, I might be a bit like, no, this is my personal time. It's a Sunday, piss off. But in this instance, especially when I'd only been freelancing for about 6 months, you got to do the work.
You take everything. I think that's the thing is you take everything when you first start freelancing as well, and you see what fits, see what sticks. You never know. That's going to change and ebb and flow as your business changes and as you develop how you want to
Yeah.
freelance. And also, like, that stuff happens. Like, I am sure that I have been recommended for a job and I've taken it, and the person that's recommended me has probably never gone back in. It
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah.
Like, it's one of those things. It doesn't mean to say it doesn't hurt sometimes, if it's like, you're like, oh, I love that client, but now you don't go back, fine. But I think it's just money comes back round.
It does. And it's easier to say that when you've got work and it's all going well. But then if you've got someone who's listening to this thinking, how I've got this problem, there's no work coming in, I'm sending a ton of emails and no one's getting back, like, what do I do? And it's a very individual case. But
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
the thing is, I'm kind of lucky in that I gave myself like more time whilst I was working somewhere and had a regular income.
Yeah.
I was they allowed me to reduce my hours, which allowed me time to build up a bit of a client base. And it's nothing like regular, there's no guarantee of money each month, but it seems to be working for now. I've got a friend of mine who freelanced. Well, he's working for a company now, but straight out of uni, he went freelance, and he survived for 3 years before he decided, this is tough in terms of the income. Like, I need to find a full-time job. So that's what he's doing now, and that's great. I've been in this game for about 2.5 years, so I'm hoping I can keep going. But it all depends as to what kind of work you do and your circles. And I feel like there's a saying of you're only as good as your last job, which is true to a point. And I always feel like I have to just do exceptional work all the time because you never know who might see it or recommend you or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
So,
and that's an exhausting, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of expectation on yourself as well.
yeah, and the mindset of it, yeah, it's tiring. But then you get moments where you realize actually I'm doing okay, like it's tough, and £20 in the business account, and it's people aren't paying you. on time because, you've got to wait until the next payment run because the person who you sent the invoice to disappeared from the company and never forwarded anything. And that's not my problem, but it is my problem because I'm not getting paid. And you just kind of, I think this is where I find the passion for what I do, because when I'm working on a good project and I'm in the edit or I'm filming something, I genuinely forget about those problems just for a moment, and it feels really good. But I really want to work on my own stuff. I really want to work on more films. I mean, I know we chatted earlier about briefly that I'd done a documentary with a friend of mine. That was really cool. Still looking out for the next one. But that kind of work is self-funded. It doesn't pay unless I can find a way to, do it on a commission basis. So, keep my head down, looking out for those opportunities. But I think that'd be something that I'd really be passionate about. And I guess that is the dream. But,
Also, those kind of dreams, they kind of, sometimes you can harbour them for a long time, and then
it burns you.
And also something maybe just will pop up at the right moment, And I think I'm very much a kind of person that thinks that the universe has kind of got its plan for you, and it will kind of direct you where you need to go. And I think
it's true. Yeah,
it's having these personal plans. You might be like, right, I've got this idea for this film, and maybe you've got 2 months where you're quiet so you can do it, and you can be like, right, okay, let's push this out, we can advertise it, and put your all into it. And I think sometimes you need those kind of passion projects. Like the podcast for me is my passion project, and I think without it, I don't know, I'd probably be still scrolling on bloody Instagram at 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah, that's not good.
Oh, no, it isn't. I also think you did the right thing going back to you kind of stepping back a little bit with your full-time job before going freelance. I think that was very sensible. I will say that.
Thanks. Because I was just very risk averse. I didn't really want to starve just because I'd seen friends go freelance, and it's very tough. It is really tough. But there's no in between. It's either really good or really bad, and there's no support. There's no sick days or anything like that. You don't get any of that.
My dad has a saying for freelance. It's either all or nothing, I think is what he used to say. But he's self-employed as well. But I think he highly discouraged me to go self-employed because he knew it was either feast or famine. That was it.
Feast or famine.
Yeah. And it's so true. Sometimes I've cried. I'm fully admit I have cried because I've not had enough work, and thought fuck, what am I gonna do? And then all of a sudden you wake up the next day and your phone's going crazy. It's like bloody buses. You can't tell when it's going to arrive, but it does. You get used to the roller coaster ride. I think that's the best way to say it. You get used to it, and then you manipulate it a little bit, and you go, well, I'm going to go off and do this.
Well, I feel like I've settled into it. I feel pretty comfortable at the moment with how things are going. I don't know, I don't have any guarantee of work in 3 months, like I say, but I kind of feel okay, something will just come up, won't it? It'll just be fine. And I really hope it will be, because obviously, it's your livelihood. And I know that January is a difficult month for those who are full-time employed as well, because it feels like a very long month. You get paid at the end of it because often you've been paid early before Christmas. That's great, but I don't know when I'll get paid. It's just random. I don't have a payday.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, my other half. My other half looks at my accounts, I've got a kind of accounting software thing. And he's like, sorry, so you're getting paid 4 times this week and then not for another 3 weeks? What? How do you manage? And I'm like, I don't know. I just do. I'm flying by the seat of my pants.
I think it takes a certain kind of personality to make it work. I don't know what it is. And you know what I do fear, though, for myself sometimes, in that, you were saying before, what were you saying about having a passion project or an idea for something and not acting on it? And if it's been months and years and it's so I'm really itching to do the next passion project, the next film. I've only got one film under my belt. I feel like Christopher Nolan, he was already starting his company Syncope with his wife at my stage and making The Dark Knight and shit. And I'm just sitting here twiddling my thumbs thinking, oh, I've not been paid yet. And I feel really bad about that. But it's a creative industry and I am a creative. But when it's really hard forgetting about the stresses and allowing yourself to be creative. The catch-22 is that, what I said before, I feel the most at ease and I forget about my stresses when I'm in the moment, when I'm filming, when I'm doing something, when I'm working on something that I really care about. but yeah, so it's like a catch-22 in a way. It's a funny one.
And also, it's so difficult not to compare yourself to other people. But like, there's people out there who first started a business at 60, first wrote their first book at 45,
Yeah, I mean,
like,
the classic one is Colonel Sanders with the KFC, isn't it? That's the main one.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I know, and a lot of people, like, with the work I do, I meet a lot of people naturally. Like, there's so many names I have to try and remember. It's the hardest thing in the world.
Oh, yeah.
But like several business owners and people like that, and a lot of them, yeah, they started when they were like in their late 40s or whatever it might be. There's I know there's a lot of time, but I do kind of stress myself out thinking, oh, am I doing it right? Am I on the right path? Like, is this the right kind of timeline?
Yeah.
But you're right also in what you said earlier about life just kind of. You didn't say this, but life does find a way. To quote Jurassic Park,
It absolutely does. And
yeah,
do
it
you know
does.
what? It will throw you some curveballs, and then you go, oh, I got out of that all right. Oh,
Yeah,
dust yourself off a bit, and you're like, all right,
yeah,
carry on.
it's
And
brilliant.
do you know what, as well? I was saying this to somebody at work. The older I get, the less I care about society's script of what I should be doing at 37, what I should have been
Yeah, no,
doing
you
at
got to
30,
ignore
what I should
that.
be. Oh,
There's no
yeah,
rule
you've just
book
got to,
anymore.
no, you just got to go and do your own thing and like be yourself. And that's how you attract the clients you want to work with.
Yeah, and
It,
through doing it, you kind of weed out the clients that you decide I don't want
mm,
to work with you anymore because you're not respectful, you don't pay me properly, or whatever it might be. And back to
yeah,
WhatsApp, what I really don't like about it, I think I need to get a second phone potentially, just because. Yeah, I don't want to, I just want to quickly just send my mum a photo of what I've been up to today. And then by opening WhatsApp, you see a message at 8 p.m. on a Friday from someone asking for a change now because it
yeah,
needs to be done now, even though you'll do the change and they won't actually see it until Monday morning, So it can
yeah,
wait, can't it?
yeah.
But it's how do you, when you need the work and when money's tight, especially in the early days, how do you navigate that? It's very difficult, but the amount of growth that I feel I've had as a person through situations like that,
Yeah.
it's like really valuable. It's just how do you act on it and kind of slowly weed out those bad clients.
And I'm going to hold my hands up. I still think that I've probably got clients that don't pay me on time. Well, I know I have got clients that don't pay me on time, or there's people where I go and I'm like, this isn't filling me with
Yeah.
joy, and you still have to, I still have a mortgage to pay. I've still got a dog to look after. I've still got
Yeah,
to,
for sure. We need to stop the whole thing around, next payment cycle. Fuck off with that. Like,
oh yeah.
please,
And fuck off with your 60 days. Fuck off.
Yeah, no, okay. So yeah, what was it? I think it's if it's B2B, 60 days, but like as an individual, you can't operate like that. And you know what it
No.
is as well. So the reason why they do it is because they want to keep. So in my view, it's because half of it is they want to keep the money in their bank account so that they can get as much interest as possible before they pay it. But I'm working for a day rate here or there. Like it's not going to make. I'm talking like 40p. Just give me just pay on
Yeah, yeah.
time, please. If you want me
Yeah.
to give the content on time, which I always do, pay me properly. I think the other thing is also for their overheads, they've got their staff and their bills and their office rent and all the rest of it. And if they have the money in their bank account, it gives them more runway in case things go tits up. And
Yeah.
business, and I do feel for business owners in that sense, especially when. So let's say they're waiting to get paid so that they can pay me and their other contractors. So the way it's supposed to work is the contractors get paid immediately and the company takes the financial kind of hit until that cost is free. So like I produce a lot of content for agencies who then will sell those videos to their partners, whether it's like a food company or a fashion brand or a retail, whatever. So the way it's supposed to work is agency pays me immediately and then they send the content to the client and then the client pays them. So I understand, yeah, okay, as a business, you're out of pocket for a little bit, but that's how it's supposed to work. That's how, like, for example, I'm lucky enough to be able to go to a friend's wedding in a month's time. And sadly, that means I can't film an event, which I have an agreement in place to cover. I'm doing the editing, but I can't film on the day. So I'm going to get a friend of mine that I know to cover me and do the filming, but I'll still do the editing. I'm going to pay him straight away. I mean, I won't get paid for a month or two, but I will pay him straight
Yeah.
away because that's what's fair. He's got his bills too,
Yeah.
you know. So you,
Yeah.
but so many times I've had it where, oh, you know, we've not been paid yet, so we'll pay you, and it's not my problem. You've got your agreement with them. I've got my agreement with you, and I've
Yeah.
got agreements with people below me. So
Yeah.
it's the whole cash flow thing, and it's so tough. But
I've had
yeah.
before, I've had clients say, well, you should have savings.
No, no, that's not. Yes, yes. Everyone should have savings. Everyone should have immaculate stocks and shares in sight, and all be millionaires. But we're not. So you know,
Yeah.
life gets in
Yeah.
the way. I had a leak in my roof, and I had to get that sorted. You know,
Yeah.
where's my
It's,
savings? You know, it's been
yeah.
spent on a new roof. So do
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Life gets in the way. It's not as clear cut. And anyone who, if someone actually said that to you, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Can't believe it.
Yeah. Yeah. But then I think, it's life does get in the way. And yeah, it'd be great to save 50% of my wages that come in, but I can't because life's expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I say silly, but it really did drive me nuts last week. But my tire got a massive puncture and I was lucky to get off the motorway, basically. Lucky it didn't blow up. So
Glad
then I
to
have to
hear.
order
Wow.
2 new tires and it's like, oh, I've just dropped £200 on 2 new tires. Like, great. Like,
Yeah.
let me just pluck that out of my back pocket, like
Yeah, no, for sure.
and then you lose a day's work because you can't work on the day that your tires are getting changed.
Mm-hmm.
It's lots of layers to the cash
Manage
flow
and
problem.
handle. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it really gets on my goat that companies
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
pay people on time. Especially we had some electrical work done and the electrician, he just pulled out a sum up machine. I shit you not. He got his phone and he totaled up all the invoice and then he went, there you go. And showed me the phone and was like,
Wow, okay.
you can pay £1,000 now. And I was like, sorry, what? I thought I'd have
Just
30
like,
days to pay you £1,000.
yeah,
What?
no. This is the thing. I pay my invoices. I had a lot of print done for some roller banners for events and things like that.
Yeah.
And I get sent an invoice and I've got time to pay straight away. Like, why would I not? I want to know that the money I've got in the bank is safe and I can use that for my bills and food and everything else, But one thing I do is whenever I get paid anything, I always put 20% of it in a separate savings account, and that's my tax. And it's not always exactly 20%, but I put money, it's a good round figure because it means I'm saving generally more than I need to, and it's to one side. I shouldn't ever have to dip into that. That's not my savings. That's the government's money. That's separate,
Yeah.
But it's the whole cash flow thing. If you don't get paid on time, it looks quite tempting to just dip into that, but then you start creating a problem for yourself and you just can't do that. But these are the things that you need to consider. But I'm not saying don't go freelance. It's just, it takes time to find your feet.
Yeah. And I think it takes a bit of discipline.
Yeah.
Financially, it takes a bit of discipline. I'm probably the worst financially. COVID really did me a number. And I think I've not really recovered my savings like I used to have. And it just is because then life's got more expensive,
Oh yeah, and there was no support for freelancers during COVID. Yeah,
and
terrible.
when there was support, then they taxed you on the fucking thing as well.
Yeah.
So, but life. And I think it's just one of those, isn't it? You can always earn more money. So, but you can't take the time back to go to friends' weddings or, go and see nieces and nephews or whatever. You can't take that time back.
There's a financial hit and there's a life hit as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
massively.
that's what freelance is supposed to be able to help you with in terms of being in control of your own time. But yeah, no, things do get in the way. And hopefully we'll not have another one of those for quite a long time, if ever. But
I hope not in the rest of my career, even if I work till I'm 80.
Well, okay, actually, all right. So I wanted to bring up the because we briefly touched on the film that I'd made.
Yes.
So that actually came out of COVID. So it's a cycling documentary where we get 4 friends and they cycle basically across the UK, 220 miles in just 24 hours.
Wow.
I was hanging out the back of a car boot for most of that time. Very tired, and it was really funny because towards the end of the filming, when we were near the finish line, us in the camera car, there was 4 of us packed into this little car. We had sound, we had a driver, we had me on the camera, and we had a runner and a photographer doing extra bits. and doing like, charging batteries and stuff with the cigarette lighter in the car. And that amount of time with each other, we were just getting really pissed off at each other. But I guess we were just really tired.
Yeah.
God, I felt so glad to just get back in bed and get home. But the achievement, because obviously we hadn't done the cycling, but I feel like we'd been there for the whole journey. Like we'd been part of it. So this came out of COVID in the sense that Rafa and the charity Ambitious But Autism collaborate every year to do a London to Manchester or Manchester to London race, basically. And anyone can sign up and it's to raise money for charity. It's great. But during the COVID, couldn't do it. So some friends decided that they'd do their own. And all they wanted me to do was film, a little sweep going by. Like I drive to the Lake District, they ride through the Lake District as part of their challenge. And I just film a little bit of that, little bit of content. And it just kind of, oh yeah, but well, okay, no, maybe I could go to like, Carlisle and we could start. Okay, now maybe we'll go to the start. Maybe I'll just film the whole damn thing, and then get Russell up some friends and the four of us went and we filmed. Well, we four filmed the four cyclists doing it, and it became like a whole thing. So I say it's a feature documentary. It's only 48 minutes, which is just within what the Academy defines as feature, which is fun. And it was a self-funded project. We made no money out of it. And what we got out of it was a film, and I printed a load of posters and framed them and gave them to the crew as like a thank you. And that's pretty nice. We submitted it to a few festivals. Didn't win much. We won a couple like online festivals, but there was no like physical trophy. But we have this framed poster with all our names on it, and that's pretty cool. And it's that kind of work that I love, even though, funnily enough, it didn't pay anything. And that's where the passion comes in. So that was 3 years ago. That was 2022 when we were filming that. So that was a while ago now, and I feel really internally guilty is a strong word, but I do feel that for not having the next film in the pipe. But amongst difficulties with not getting paid on time and looking for work and thinking about your bills and just being an adulting, you kind of like forget about the passion and the creativity. It's just hard making time for that without worrying about life.
Yeah, and I think certain things take a priority.
No, it's true. It's true.
That's it. Like, unfortunately, adulting is not like Peter Pan. We can't all be like kids.
No, we can't.
And you have to prioritize stuff. And sometimes those kind of passion projects get put on the shelf for a little bit, and that's fine. Like it'll pick back up when you think, maybe when your ideas are buzzing and it's just one of those. But that sounds like a really cool thing to have done, actually, though.
It was just a good experience, honestly.
Yeah.
And so you mentioned off the podcast earlier, you went to my website, which, but there's a section on my website, there's contact, and there's a section called Out the Boot. So what Out the Boot is it's just a shared name that whenever me and a friend of mine are working on a project, it's not owned by one of us. It's on my website, it's on his website. No, it's kind of like a shared joint thing. Mm-hmm. And that's what Ambitious 220, our film, was. It was a shared thing, and we wanted to have an equal kind of like, claim on it. So we created this whole thing called Out the Boot, which is basically whenever I'm hanging out the back of a car boot filming, cars and bikes and that sort of thing. Because we've done it a few times for different things. But yeah, so that's what that is. It's just a way to do something as a joint team thing, and it's mostly for passion projects. But we've just been so busy, we've not been able to chat about the next one. But funnily enough, so this weekend is the BSC Expo. That stands for British Society of Cinematographers. They do an expo every year in London, and it's basically a chance to kind of network and also look at a load of really expensive toys and camera kit that I cannot afford. But that's a nice touch point for us both to meet up and chat about things. And obviously there'll be lots of other people there. There's sessions and panels, and it's if you're into videos and filmmaking and even photography or, just sound, anything on set, it's a really good thing to go to. It's in Battersea in London. And I couldn't recommend that enough. But yeah, hopefully I'll be there chucking out a load of business cards, trying to get ideas for the next project. And hopefully, because you said before, you'd never know where life leads you. And even like I was saying with Ambitious 220, the film, It was an accident. We didn't mean to make it. It was a cool opportunity to do something different. And actually, I wasn't freelancing at the time. I was still working for this, my previous company. So that was a good kind of transition, if you will, like a good way to kind of work on a big project. I know it wasn't paid, but that's kind of what I'm doing for clients now. There's a film that I made recently about the British fashion and textiles industry. Going from sheep and weaving and spinning all the way to Savile Row with the tailors, and then going into retail. So yeah, and that kind of came out of nowhere as well. So yeah, fingers crossed there'll be something good around the corner.
Yeah, that's it. And you just never know. You never know who you're going to meet, what is going to come out of anything. And actually, like these kind of storytelling films that sound amazing, like the Savile Row one and the cycling one, they are all kind of like mini little bricks of your foundation to kind of get you
Yeah,
to
that's
where you
true.
want to be. And I think like these projects, they all sound like so interesting. And like for you to
Thanks.
be able to kind of tell the story and also hang out of a boot, which sounds dangerous, but each to
Oh
their
no,
own.
we have harnesses and all the rest
Oh,
of it.
I
At
was
one
going to
point
say,
whilst filming, we were on a dual carriageway, and I was out the back of the car boot, as you do, and a couple of police cars with the sirens, blues and twos went past, but they weren't doing it for us. They had a real criminal to stop. So
yeah,
clearly they saw us and were like, you know what, whatever, you just do you. It's fine. We've got actual people to stop. But that
yeah.
was it was a bit of a we were quite worried because that was about 10 minutes into the 24-hour cycle challenge. It was just outside Newcastle, and we ended up, well, it was because the cyclists were on a dual carriageway. They're not supposed to be on a dual carriageway. They took a wrong turn. So yeah, you know what? There's lots of little moments like that, and you are right. I've never thought about that. It builds a foundation. I think there's a quote I heard earlier this week, which was, "Never look back, other than to see how far you've come." I wouldn't say that I'm ready to look back just yet, but to be honest, that's what it's all about. I just want to be at like a retirement age and look back on my career and be like, yeah, that was fun. I had a good time.
Yeah,
That's all I want to do. That's literally it. I just want to
and
be proud of it.
you're so right. Like what we do is really quite fun. Like creatives, we get paid to kind of be
We
silly.
do, yeah, for
Like
sure. And I
if
think
you
I had a
told,
nail biting, like kind of like pinch me moment when I first had that. You know,
yeah, and if you told little Marcus that you were hanging out the back of a car filming for cyclists from the length of the country, he'd probably be like, "No, you weren't," and then you'd be like, "Yeah, I was. I was hanging
yeah,
out
no,
of a
it's
car. It's
cool.
sick."
I used to another moment of that, and I probably shouldn't mention, but when I was working for my previous company, obviously I was the only one in the company doing video production, and part of that was doing a little kind of weekly vlog. Like we used to, because it was around 2017, and vlogs were a bit more prevalent in YouTube, especially
Yeah.
with Casey Neistat and all the rest of it, Fun for Louie, and well, the company was starting to get traction in the education space, and that allowed us to go to a lot of, they call them EdTech conferences, and a lot of them in America. So I had the chance to go to conferences in New York, New Orleans, Philadelphia, Dallas,
Wow.
which was a really cool experience. And I went to February 2020. We were in Austin, so like a month before COVID. And that, to be honest, yeah, you're right with COVID, because that's when everything changed, because the company was on a really good, like, up at that
Mm.
point. It was exciting. I was still fairly, well, quite young, really. It was 5 years ago now. And yeah, just looking at the calendar, yeah, it was. And that, I remember feeling like, because I'd filmed a few bits of the team going to like networking drinks and that kind of thing. And we filmed a podcast out there. And I was editing it the next morning over a coffee. It's this Keurig, they call it. It's like an American Nespresso machine. And I was wearing this top hat, which was from the cupboard in the Airbnb, because this Airbnb was clearly used for like hen do's and that sort of thing. And
Yeah.
I was editing, and I was wearing this top hat because why not? Whatever, felt silly, as you say, and just editing footage from the previous night and feeling, you know what, this is really cool. I feel like a YouTuber. This is really fun. I think COVID and everything changed, and so on and so forth, and your life takes a different direction. But yeah, that was exactly that kind of moment when you realize, hang on, I'm doing something kind of fun here.
Yeah.
And yeah, you got to remember that and be thankful. And I haven't actually thought about that for a little while. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean, it's like when I talk about my job, when you asked me earlier, like before you press record about my job, and I'm like, well, it's kind of silly, really. I hang stuff
Yeah,
on a hanger and I make it look pretty, or I make products look pretty. Like, it's a silly job. Someone's got to do it, but it's quite a silly job.
someone's
I'm
got to
not
do it.
saving lives. I'm not doing heart surgery. I mean, no one wants me to do heart or brain surgery, but it's still someone's got to do it.
For sure. And I think it's the kind of work that people just assume doesn't exist.
Mm.
Maybe like kids growing up now because of, YouTube, TikTok, influencers, all the rest of it. It's a bit more of a known. I remember watching the news when I was a kid and they were interviewing some guy who'd found a way to make money on YouTube, and it was like unbelievable. Like that this was like groundbreaking stuff. Like, what, you're not a lawyer? Like, what's wrong with you,
Yeah.
But it's quite normal these days to do that as like a business case and to sell ad space to companies and promote their products. I don't do any of that. I do have a YouTube channel, and occasionally when I've got a bit of free time, I do try to make a video about my kind of recommendations around certain techniques for filming or whatever it might be. I did a video on how to put a teleprompter onto a gimbal, so that you can have fluid motion, but your presenter or whoever's like on the video can be more confident and can be more eloquent in how they speak. And I just thought it's something that I figured out how to do. I'm sure it's been done before, but it felt really silly, as you say. And I just thought, okay, I'll do a video on that. So I did a video on it. It's not got that many views, but yeah, that's as far as I'd like to take it. I think I'm kind of past it in terms of being like, dreams of being a YouTuber or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
Really
I think people have realized it's quite hard to do content creation, no matter whether it's on TikTok or Instagram or,
it's very hard.
People I know now, they've got like millions of followers, but I first started with them when they were styling and they were doing written blogs, and I'm talking like 2012, 2013, maybe a long time ago. And they're now like, their content's changed because it's now on Instagram, it's on TikTok, it's, and it's a hard job. You've got to think of all the ideas, then you've got to edit it, then you've got to market it well, plus you've got to do your own accounts and all the other businessy stuff on the side.
Sure, but it's like, also you've got to put yourself out there. You've got to be you've got to be the face of it. And if you're quite introverted, you don't always want to do that. But some people have been able to be persistent and grow out the comfort zone. Marquez Brownlee is a big example of that. He's a tech YouTuber, and he recently did a video where he basically shared his first ever video and then did like a montage going through, and like, good for him, like really good kind of self-confidence, and you can see him and his style growing and evolving as it goes. But what if you don't want to do that? What if you don't want to be on the front of the camera? But it feels like now, especially with like LinkedIn, because that's how I do a lot of my networking, it ends up being on LinkedIn, and everyone's trying to be an influencer, everyone's trying to be a thought leader and trying to, because that's how you get more people seeing that you exist. I don't often post on social media because I'm so busy producing work for clients that in my own time, I don't want to be sat behind a desk thinking of ideas. And, I want to spend time with my partner, have some food, I want to watch some films and, get ideas that way. But I did a post about, some work opportunity that I had. In fact, I'll give you the quick rundown. So at my old company, a friend of mine who was working there, he started volunteering at this kind of like, I don't know how to describe it. It's a company which has like different city kind of reps in different cities around the world.
Okay.
And he was like, I want to be the Manchester one. I want to host Manchester. I want to run my own events and I'll volunteer and I'll do that. And it's like a community building thing around the partnership space. I know nothing about the partnership space, but I was like, cool. You're a friend of mine. I would like to make you look good. I want to film a little highlight video, some social content for this event that you're doing for free for the benefit of those in Manchester. And he's like, yeah, that sounds amazing. Great. So I filmed that video. And the people who, this is a big tangent, but I'll get there. The people who run the company in San Francisco in America, they saw that video, loved it, and, were really thankful. Didn't offer any money, but they were just like, oh yeah, this is great. Just wanted to say thank you very much. And I said, that's brilliant. Thank you for your feedback. Glad that you liked it. I noticed on your website you have a flagship event which is happening in Denver this year. This was a couple of years ago. These are my rates. This is what it would cost. I can do this for you. I noticed you did the event only 1 year previous and you had no video content. I can't find anything on it. So what do you say? And they were like, yeah, we'll do it. But, your pricing is very aggressive. And I said, well, okay, right, we can work on that. We can look at what we can reduce. But no, they said aggressive in terms of it's really competitive. They wanted to increase the rate because they thought, well, how am I supposed to pay for flights in a hotel? Like, it's not a reasonable. And I think in America, the way that, the IRS works and the way that, workers' rights are different, unions, generally, I think people get paid more
Mm.
over there. And the cost of living obviously comes into effect too. So before I knew it, I was on a plane going to Denver and I was the sole videographer to film this 3-day event. Brilliant, unbelievable in the Rockies, had a great time. So yeah, that's a pretty cool story. So what I did is I wrote that up in like a bit of a LinkedIn post just because I thought, well, it's something cool that happened. It's something fun to share, whatever. I'll just, and work was quite quiet during this time. So I thought I'd just write that. And a friend of mine from uni who I'd not seen for about 10 years, based down in Brighton, saw that LinkedIn post, could see that I was still based in Manchester because I'd mentioned that I'd done a video in Manchester. And obviously, oh, well, Marcus seems to be doing all right. He's going to America. That's pretty cool. They had a shoot in Manchester that they wanted a camera assistant for. And they said, are you up for it? And that's another job that I got out of just doing a LinkedIn post. So even though I don't like the idea of being like an influencer and spending all my time writing posts and making content and all the rest of it for myself, I can see the value in it. Like, it reminds people that you exist and puts you at the top of the feed so that if there's an opportunity, I mean, most jobs aren't advertised. If recruiters and if people in a company know someone, then, or someone internal, they'll go. So it's just making yourself be known. So as annoying as it is, it's kind of the way it's going. You've got to have a bit of a presence. It's like you with your podcast. This is a great way for you to, show off all the skills that you have and talk about that, but also offer that to people like me and have me as a guest and allow me to chat about what I do. So basically, yeah, thank you. This is a really good, it's a really good opportunity for that. And,
Yeah.
with regards to all that I'm saying. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think as well, you're right about social media. So I started to schedule stuff out this time last year, beginning of last year, I think. I tried to do 3 posts a week on Instagram and LinkedIn. Now, I can't always post what I'm working on because NDAs or products not out yet, or like they're gold seal samples and maybe they have to be edited, or like a different label has to be dropped on, whatever. So I struggled to keep up with that. However, on LinkedIn, what I've been trying to do, similarly to you, is just kind of go with stories. Like, I put up that I bust my tire the other week. I put up that I'd like got stuck in a bog in the Peak District with my friend she just was pissing herself laughing and took a picture of me in this bog. Great marketing though, because then people were like, "Oh, this is so funny." Like,
to be fair, vulnerability can work. Everyone's been in that kind of situation, right? So
yeah. And I think, do you know what? It shows, like we were saying earlier, it shows your personality. And then people go, "Oh, she sounds like she doesn't take life too seriously. Cool. Let's have her in." Or
because you want to work with people that you're going to get along with, because then you'll produce better stuff. That's logical, right? You don't want to be going in there like, "Oh yeah, I've got my suit and I'm very kind of stiff and I'm not letting you know anything about my personal life." No, people want to work with people, especially in creative industries.
Yeah, and I think this is where I was going wrong initially, was I was just using LinkedIn to go, "I'm available on the 5th, 6th and 7th, book me, hey." And that was it, rather than putting my personality. So I think it definitely helps to post stuff. But like, I sit on if my other half's working on the weekend, I'll sit on a Sunday and I'll schedule stuff out. And I've no shame in saying that I schedule stuff out, because then I can just quickly go on when it's scheduled, see if there's any comments, reply to comments. It makes my life a bit quicker, a bit easier. But I do think LinkedIn's like it's becoming a bit better. It used to be really minging. It used to be, that's the best word for it, because it used to just be like CEOs, white collar CEOs, just kind of, that's the best word for it. But yeah, it's much better now. And like, there's a lot of people, like the Dead Pixel crew are on there quite a lot. They're posting quite a lot. There's other studios. They're so good. There's other studios posting. There's like, people are using it as a platform to engage and to chat to each other
and to share as well.
To share, yeah, but not in I don't find it in a boastful way. I think people are doing it in a, "Hey, I've done this and this is how I've shot it, or this is how I've like come up with this idea." Or
there's lots of advice as well and helping other people. I think the LinkedIn that you were describing earlier, the old style. So in Australia, you've got the Adelaide Fringe Festival. It's kind of like what we've got in Edinburgh, the UK. And there's an act on there. You need to go on YouTube and find a search. It's called Wankonomics, and it's basically that. I only found out about it yesterday, but we'll go on there, have a look, and it's basically like old white collar CEO LinkedIn post / like work emails, and it's like, oh, you know what? I can't give an example off the top of my head, but like, oh, don't say this, say that, So don't say, I don't have a fucking clue what like the numbers are, and I don't know how much that's going to cost. Like, I don't know how you're supposed to do that. Just say, we need to open a new dialogue, and we need to, discuss the financials around this. I don't have the numbers in, but it's just like a different way of wording things. Just have a look. It's quite funny. Yeah. I had a run in with like someone from accounts, and then it's just like, how do you kind of like rephrase that to be a bit, it's funny stuff. But yeah, no, LinkedIn's not like that anymore, which is good.
No, I definitely think it's much better. And I think people are finding more work through it. And, there's lots of, I think it's much more useful to us creative freelancers than what it used to be. Way more useful. But like I say, you can put a bit of personality. Like someone at work today said, I saw your post about last weekend. I don't know, I tripped up the stairs, got stuck in a bog. There was something else that happened. And I just like wrote it all down and then put this picture that my friend took of me literally in the fucking bog. And not in a toilet, in like a outside PE bog. And the guy was like, this is hilarious. And I'm like, yeah, it has nothing to do with work, but like it still impacted my week, because then I was like, well, I'm like covered in like crap, you've got to sort everything else out, and then like XYZ happened, and yeah, it's life, isn't it? And I think if you're just being very robotic, especially on social media, if you're just being very robotic, I think people are like, who is this person? Why would we book them? Because there's no personality coming through. We can't see if they're actually going to gel with the people we've already got in the studio, or, I think makes sense. I mean, I'm not advocating that we all tell everybody that we got stuck in a bog, or like.
Well, maybe that's it. Maybe rather than saying you got stuck in a bog, just say, "Oh, look, we had a misalignment. We need to search. We need to work on the vertical model, and we'll speak with accounts to see if we can, So rather than getting like unstuck, I don't know. It's just that's basically So I don't. I'd love to go and actually see the show if ever they come to the UK. But Wankonomics, it's so good. That's basically what it is. Yeah,
that'd be so good.
Yeah.
So what are your goals for this year in your business?
Survive. There's no balls in that. Yeah. No, to be honest, I think it's to, because things get more expensive all the time, and I have got my personal goals. I want to have another kind of passion project in the pipe. I want to do things, and there's a lot of kit I need to buy. I need to upgrade my kind of storage and backup solution. That costs money. So, there's a lot of cost, and I just want to, and find more projects that I really can get my teeth stuck into and love working on, but that I can still be paid fairly for and on time. I think, and to be honest, no, all of that waffle, survive. I just want to survive. But I think that's what all of us are trying to do, right? And in between, just have a bit of fun as well. I do have ambitions to maybe start because from freelancing as a videographer and like a filmmaker, where do you go from there? And the very natural next step is to start a production company. And I've seen the journeys of, you mentioned Dead Pixel and other companies, What Media in Manchester, and then there's Rogue Films down in London and Foster Studios in Preston. So I've followed a lot of these companies for a long time, and I've seen them where their founders have gone from just being freelancers like me to then starting a company. And it's a big challenge, especially when, we complain about having no sick days. Well, when you're the boss, you don't get any sick days either. You've got to pay for other people's sick days, and there's a lot more responsibility. But for some reason, it doesn't really scare me too much. And I'm not ready yet, but, I'm trying to figure things out, trying to see if there's a niche. Maybe I can, because I do a bit of everything at the moment. But I know you've kind of gone down a bit of a niche with what you do with, your stylists. So obviously, I'm still in my infancy, but I think the goal is to survive and also figure it out.
Yeah. And I think that, like I was saying to you earlier, it changes and it evolves and it ebbs and it flows. And it might be that goal ebbs and flows into something different. Or it might be like it comes quicker than what you're thinking. And like neither's right or wrong.
Yeah. No, it's true.
That's it.
And yeah, and like I said earlier, to retire and just be like, yeah, look back and yeah, that was fun. I had a good time. I think that's everyone's goal, right? So if
Yeah,
I can just keep
yeah.
that and run through, then I'll have a good time.
So I've got one last question for you. You vaguely know what's coming. Answer it in whichever way you see fit. What inspires you, Marcus?
What inspires me? I've always got like a bit of a canned response for this, just because, going on a tangent now, you have to, when you're freelancing, you're constantly asking yourself, why am I doing this? This is fucked. Like, doesn't work. I'm dipping into my savings all the time, or I'm working for this, this client's being a bit of a nuisance, or they're just not communicating, or like, you turn up to a shoot and you've got to figure everything out why you're doing it. And I think the reason why, and I think it's because, how can I put it? It's just like, I think to create something that can help or motivate or inspire someone else, that's, you're building some kind of legacy, or you're giving back in some way. A lot of the stuff I work on are charity projects that don't actually pay at all, but it helps keep me practice and helps my skills and grow and develop. And also it gives back and it feels really good. I think what inspires me is often the work of others. And I look at the work and what people are doing and what they're going through. I've got a friend of mine who owns an AV company, audio visual, and yeah, his 2025 is on a really like weird trajectory. A lot of the people that work for him are having tough times. Some are having to move or leave or whatever, but he's still got to deliver. And stories like that are really inspirational, because if they can deal with that, then surely whatever comes my way, I can deal with too. But maybe I could figure out a way to help them at the same time. So yeah, I think it's just, see, I'm rambling now. This is it. This is why I'm doing more podcasts. This is the reason. This is why we're here.
I love a good tangent though, so
Yeah, it's just do good, be good. That's kind of
yeah.
that's what it's all about, and to help those that are around, just making things better. But I think what I will say is, like, when I'm in an edit for something that I've made, I had it with the cycling film, and I'm currently having it with this film for cyclists fighting cancer, which is the next one. I can see the difference that it'll make, because they don't have much money, but this video, if it gets seen by the right people, will bring them more money, and it'll allow them to give more bikes to kids that need it. And that's really nice. And I'm a part of that. In this film, I interviewed an older man who'd, been a cancer patient years ago. And due to the cancer, there was, his bones were a lot more brittle than they used to be. Like now, they're a lot. So if he fell off a bike, it'd be very bad for him. So he can't ride bikes anymore. So he's given up his passion to ride bikes, but he's donated that bike to cyclists fighting cancer. They will sell that bike, that will raise money, and that money will be used to buy brand new bikes for children and young people living with cancer. And that, I kind of teared up a little bit when he said that. I didn't tear up when I filmed it, but in the edit a couple of days ago, I was like, with the right music underneath it, I was like, oh God, wow, it's just really nice, and good for him. So
Yeah.
that's what inspires me. That's an example. And a very long answer, I'm very sorry, but yeah, it's just nice.
It's nice that you're using your creativity to help others, and it's also got a bit of an emotion attached to it for you as well. And I think it's nice that you're able at the beginning of your business to be able to schedule in time to help these charities out, because I think you can get all consumed with your business, and it's just so lovely that you're wanting to help other businesses and charities out like that. So I think it's a really great thing.
Well, because when it's quiet work-wise, I mean, you need to do something, right? And when there's an opportunity to do something good and helpful, it feels better than just doing it to get paid. You can put some passion into it, and also because they're not paying you, they put a lot of trust in you, because they want to. I mean, I'm talking about this specific charity, but others as well. Like, there's only so much they can ask of you, so you get a lot of creative freedom to really tell it in your way. Obviously, you've got to work with them and collaborate, and take in feedback and listen to ideas, but you're giving a lot of autonomy to do it in your way, and that's really empowering as well. Like, I can really use my knowledge and skills and care and heart to really help in my way, even though it might not be for physical money. It might be for, in my case, video. Someone else, it could be something else. For that older man, it was to give a bike which could then be sold to raise money. So yeah, it's that kind of thing.
That's so lovely. Well, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. I've really enjoyed listening to your journey so far because it's been wild.
You've certainly had enough time to listen to it. I've definitely rambled on longer than I should have done, but I appreciate the opportunity to come on and just chat. And again, like I said earlier, you do get in your own head as a freelancer at times. And I think it's really important not only to listen to these conversations, but be part of them as well. So yeah, thank you for facilitating it and for, the opportunity. It's been really fun. I've enjoyed it.
You're more than welcome. Thank you for listening to this week's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Please rate, follow, and share, as it really helps this little podcast out. And if you have found value in the podcast and you have the means to, I do have a Buy Me a Coffee link in the show notes. This will help keep the podcast going. Join me next week for another fantastic guest. Bye!